Welcome to a brand new episode of the Jampack Report today for March the 9th of 2020. Of course, my name is Samuel Adams and this is a daily gaming news podcast meant to bring you the hottest news you need to know from around the industry. Hosted on YouTube and podcast services around the world 5 days a week, the Jampack Report is your one-stop shop for all of the hottest gaming news that you need to know. And let me tell you, today was a jam-packed day full of news. Haha, you see what I did there? It was a wordplay because the name of the show is the Jampack Report. I was proud of that. But let's just dive straight into the stories of today because Call of Duty Warzone is a free battle royale that launches tomorrow. Of course, the long-rumored, very much so leaked brand new game mode is officially launching across all platforms on March the 10th. A new Call of Duty Battle Royale game is arriving tomorrow to compete with PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, Fortnite, and Apex Legends. Call of Duty Warzone is a new free-to-play Battle Royale that will be available to play on March the 10th with some unique twists. There have been many Warzone leaks in recent weeks, but the game is officially arriving tomorrow and you won't even need Modern Warfare to download and play it since it is free for everyone. Much like Apex Legends, players will be able to form squads of 3 across PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC. Warzone will also include cross-progression and cross-play, so friends on any system can play together. There are 2 modes, Traditional Battle Royale and a Plunder mode. Up to 150 players will duke it out on the Battle Royale mode, with gas chasing them for the closing circle. In Plunder, players will need to collect the most cash from looting items across the map, stealing enemies' cash, or completing in-game contracts. Warzone is set in a giant city dubbed Verdansk with more than 300 points of interest and landmarks for looting. You will also be able to use vehicles to transport around the map, including an ATV, rover, SUV, cargo truck, and even a helicopter. One of the most unique parts of Warzone is a 1 versus 1 respawn mechanic. Dubbed Gulag, it allows players who have died to respawn if they win a 1 versus 1 battle, and if your teammates are also part of the Gulag queue, they can spectate the fight from a balcony and even assist by throwing rocks at opponents to stun them. Players will be able to enter the Gulag if their teammates have completed enough contracts or earned enough in-game cash to redeploy them. A variety of contracts will exist in Warzone, including simple scavenger missions to open supply boxes or ones to secure locations against enemies. Some contracts even reward unique perks in the game, like the ability to see the next circle collapse location before the ring starts to close. Cash can also be used to purchase items at specific buy stations on the map, and you can use and purchase kill streaks, redeploy tokens for teammates, self-revive kits, and more. Call of Duty Warzone will be available across PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC tomorrow, starting at 10 a.m. Pacific Time, 1 p.m. Eastern Time for Modern Warfare owners, and 12 p.m. Pacific Time, 3 p.m. Eastern Time for everyone else. If you already own Modern Warfare and you have it installed, the download for Warzone will be between 18 gigs and 22 gigs. For everyone else, the game will be an 83 gig to 101 gigabyte download. Now, I do want to clarify something. I believe that they might have gotten those timings a little bit off here because I believe the game is actually launching tomorrow at 8 a.m. Yes, 8 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time, which is going to translate to 11 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, means that you are actually going to be able to dive in very much so sooner than that original time frame if you do own Modern Warfare. And again, that is the key. If you own Modern Warfare, you get access to the game very much so earlier. In fact, of course, Activision will be setting the game live at 12 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time, which is 3 p.m. Eastern Time. So therefore, you do get a bit of an advantage if you wanted to dive in. Now, this is a phenomenal move for a variety of reasons. Number one, first and foremost, right off the bat, this is a free-to-play game. That is going to be a big factor in this game actually being successful in the long run because, of course, Blackout was also a big battle royale in the Call of Duty space. However, it was not free-to-play, and it came out at a time when free-to-play was the expectation, and I think that still maintains its fidelity in today's day and age because free-to-play is pretty much the future of where a lot of these battle royale games are going to be coming from. And so you see a lot of the mechanics in this trailer, such as the helicopter blades chopping people up on the roof. You see one person diving down from the sky and kicking somebody off the top of a building. There are a lot of mechanics here that I think we are getting a glimpse of in the trailer that are going to be pretty impressive whenever the game does launch tomorrow. But I think, and I said this on Twitter before, this could be the game of the summer in the same way that you saw Fortnite rise to fame and in the same way that Apex Legends has maintained its fame over the course of the past little over a year since it's been out. I really do think that if they do play their cards correctly, well, this Call of Duty Battle Royale by the name of Warzone could be the game of the year for 2020, at least in terms of the Battle Royale scene. Because I do believe that a lot of first-person shooters, but specifically Battle Royale games, have gotten very stale over the course of the past year or so, especially in the streaming space where people are playing the same thing night after night. You do get tired of it after a while, and this map, it looks pretty impressive, and I do believe that it's going to have a lot of iconic locales from around the world of Modern Warfare included with it. So, if you do want to dive in, again, the game is going to be live tomorrow for everyone across every platform. No timed exclusivity based on platform. Of course, if you own Modern Warfare, you do get access to the game just a few hours earlier. And if you do have the game, Modern Warfare, it is going to be accessible directly from your main in-game menu, where that classified tab was whenever we got the update in December. So with that being said, that is our, of course, headline story for the day, and I cannot wait to see you online because you know your boy's going to be diving into the world of Warzone. However, more big news breaking late today. GameStop has appointed Reggie Fils-Aimé to the board of directors. Nintendo of America's former president and taker of names is joining GameStop's board of directors. The huge gaming retail company announced today that Reggie Fils-Aimé is joining its board to help turn the company around, and Fils-Aimé is best known as his time as the president of Nintendo of America when he was the face of the company in North America. Joining Fils-Aimé on the board is Bill Simon and J.K. Simonak? Ooh, wow, Simonicki? Ooh, I don't know that one. Simon has worked 30 years in various executive roles in the retail industry, and Simonak is the president and chief executive of PetSmart. Somebody in the comment section can give me that pronunciation, or we can just call him whatever. We're not talking about Reggie. We're talking about the guy that owns PetSmart. Wow, chunk change compared to the man himself. I kid. PetSmart's a fine company, don't sue me. GameStop's goal is to have Fils-Aimé, Simon, and Simonak provide expertise to help turn its struggling business back towards profitability. Quote, the gaming industry needs a healthy and vibrant GameStop, Fils-Aimé writes on Twitter. I look forward to being a part of GameStop's corporate board and helping to make this happen. GameStop sees this as a chance to bring in fresh ideas, and the board refreshment and governance enhancements announced today represent an important milestone in GameStop's transformation as we continue to evolve the company's business strategy for long-term success. GameStop Chief Executive George Sherman said, they are each highly qualified and bring significant, relevant experience to our turnaround. GameStop also told investors that 4 board members are leaving their duties on that body. Those include Dan DiMatteo, Gerald Szczepanski, wow, Larry Zalavi, and Steve Koonin. During their tenure, the company has made important progress executing on our objective of becoming a leading omnichannel retailer with top market share in the gaming category, GameStop director Kathy Vrabec said, and we appreciate their thoughtful leadership, guidance, and service. Vrabec said the current team is working to implement a strategy to return value to shareholders, and the revised board of directors will have to ensure that remains true. Of course, GameStop does mark Reggie's return to games. He was one of the most recognizable executives among gaming fans in the West, joining Nintendo in the early 2000s and quickly taking on the role of primary spokesman. Of course, in February 2019, Fils-Aimé announced he would leave Nintendo at the end of that fiscal year, and on April the 15th, he celebrated the end of his tenure at the company. Of course, since then, he has taught college classes, become somewhat of a social media icon, and of course, they talk more about how GameStop is pretty much floundering for any kind of positive momentum. And they are indeed floundering. This is interesting to me because of the fact that GameStop is clearly throwing a lot of money at Reggie to keep them afloat. I think that's kind of what we're looking at here. Now, it is worth mentioning Reggie is an icon in the world of gaming. He's somewhat of a demigod to a lot of people, especially Nintendo fans. But he also brings decades and decades of insight into how the gaming industry works and what fans want. Of course, we know from experience that Nintendo was guided through a period of uncertainty by Fils-Aimé and several other executives, and now the company is incredibly profitable because of the choices that those designers and those executives over at Nintendo chose to make with the Nintendo Switch. And so I think that Reggie is certainly qualified to be in this position, but I think that his statement is very interesting as well. Of course, as put out on Twitter, he does need a vibrant and healthy GameStop. Of course, that's Fils-Aimé writing it on Twitter. And I think that vibrant and healthy GameStop could be a benefit in the modern space. It's not necessarily time for GameStop to die, even though digital is becoming a bigger part of the way people play. I think that until we have the end of consoles, the definitive conclusion of the console-based gaming experience, GameStop will still have a spot at the table, although it might not necessarily be at the head of the table. And again, that's just my 2 cents on that one. However, speaking of digital and streaming, NVIDIA GeForce Now has lost support for Borderlands, Civ, and other 2K games. This happened late Friday, but we are just getting to it on Monday. The publisher is leaving the platform after Activision Blizzard and Bethesda did in February. NVIDIA is dropping even more titles from GeForce Now's shrinking selection of games. In a post on the company's forum, a staff member has revealed that NVIDIA will start removing 2K games from streaming services today. 2K's most popular franchises include Borderlands, Civilization, BioShock, and XCOM. The staff members did not elaborate on the situation, only telling forum posters that the game's removal was, quote, per publisher request, and the company is working with 2K to, quote, re-enable its games in the future. GeForce Now's library suffered one tremendous blow after another almost as soon as the service came out of beta. Activision Blizzard pulled its games just a few days after it went public because it apparently wanted a commercial agreement with NVIDIA. Shortly after that, Skyrim developer Bethesda followed suit. NVIDIA did not release an official statement this time around, but when Bethesda exited, GeForce Now general manager Phil Eisler said, "As we approach a paid service, some publishers may choose to remove games before the trial period ends. Ultimately, they maintain control over their content and decide whether the game you purchase includes streaming on GeForce Now. Meanwhile, others will bring games back as they continue to realize GeForce Now's value. Stay tuned for more on that. As the transition period comes to completion, game removals should be few and far between, with new games added to GeForce Now each week," end quote. So this is what happens when you put games out on a service without telling people that you're putting them out. This would essentially be, in my mind, the equivalent of Sony saying, hey, we're putting Halo on PlayStation. It's not directly on it, but you can stream it. That sounds a little fishy to me. Now, of course, that's not a direct comparison because GeForce Now essentially uses your library that you have built in, games that you have purchased, and you can stream them on the go via the cloud. And so it's not exactly playing something on a different console without the permission of the developers and the publishers, but it still is kind of a gray area because the way that we play games in 2020 is vastly different as compared to the way that we play games in, say, 2010 and even 2008, 2007. And so I think that right now it's going through a bit of a transitional period, but not necessarily the end of the road for the world of GeForce Now. Still a very strong contender in the world of streaming. But Epic is wholeheartedly supporting GeForce Now. Even Epic exclusives will be accessible on the streaming service at the individual publisher's discretion. Activision Blizzard, Bethesda, 2K, and indie studio Hinterland have all pulled games from NVIDIA's streaming service GeForce Now since it left beta and added a paid tier for subscribers. Epic is one company that won't be joining them, as CEO Tim Sweeney clarified on Twitter. Quote, Epic is wholeheartedly supporting NVIDIA's GeForce Now service, he wrote. With Fortnite and with Epic Game Store titles that choose to participate, including exclusives, and will be improving the integration over time. At the moment, GeForce Now users have streaming access to a selection of games they already own on Steam, with NVIDIA allowing publishers to opt out of having their games accessible in this way. As we explained during the week, not everyone is happy with the arrangement, and Capcom pulled out even before the end of the beta. This is interesting because I think it shows that Epic Games is still focused on being the best way for gamers to access their titles, whether it be on a PC, a PS4, an Xbox One, a Switch, an iOS device, an Android phone, or even now GeForce Now. They just want you to play the games, and I think that does show a gamer-centric approach, but it is also worth mentioning that Epic has tons and tons of money. They're really bringing it in hand over fist even after Fortnite has begun to decline in popularity a bit, and so perhaps they can afford to take the hit from one of their games selling incredibly well on GeForce Now and not natively on their platform. But for indie developers that need that money to survive and pay salaries, they might not necessarily be keen on abandoning their platform exclusivity on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, or even exclusively on Steam, whatever it might be, in exchange for being being able to be played on the go. But Epic is on board, so hey, the service still could survive, and in fact, you might even see GeForce Now picked up by Epic. That wouldn't surprise me if they bought the technology off of NVIDIA in exchange for a cool couple $1 million. But we'll see what happens. But to round off today's show, of course, we have some bad news for those that pay attention to stocks. Oh God, I'm so sorry. Today was rough. But today was the worst day in Japanese game stocks in over 10 years. With the closing bell of Tokyo Stock Exchange, Japan has just experienced its worst day for game stocks in over a decade. Nintendo, Sony, Capcom, and Konami, among others, each took a major hit today on Japan Stock Exchange. As noted by game developer Dr. Serkan Toto, Nintendo finished the day at minus 3.96%, Sony at down 7.31%, Koei at down 5.41%, Capcom down 6.68%, and Konami down 6.76%, with Sega down 6.74% and Square Enix down at 5.79%. And of course, a Nippon Ichi at a whopping down 17.58%. For those that just completely blocked out all of those numbers, wow, that's really bad. I've been following roughly 50 Japanese game stocks for over 10 years now, wrote Toto on Twitter. Today was the worst day I can remember. Stock markets have been affected globally in the wake of growing fears of the impact of the coronavirus, and today U.S. shares were briefly suspended when sharp falls led to an automatic halt in buying and selling stocks. Crude oil has also experienced a sharp drop following a row between Russia and Saudi Arabia. The COVID-19 virus has caused concern throughout the games industry. Most recently, Emerald City Comic-Con, which takes place in Seattle, was moved this summer due to coronavirus cases in the city. Other events such as GDC 2020, EVE FanFest, and various esports events have been postponed or canceled, and some devs even also decided to skip PAX East over coronavirus concerns. Now, for more on the COVID-19 situation, you can find tons of previous episodes of the Jampack Report that go very in-depth into each individual company that pulled out of GDC, and on top of that, we talk more about E3 2020 and the potential for it to be canceled. But man, we are really going to see a very big hit as the year goes on, and I would even go so far as to say at this point, a delay of consoles, both from Sony and Microsoft, is probably inevitable. I think that that's pretty much a guaranteed bet. I wouldn't be shocked to see these consoles pushed back to spring 2021, maybe even summer 2021 at the earliest, and it could even be fall 2021 by the time we actually see these things launch. Of course, that is a worst case scenario. They very well could still launch on time, but it just does not make sense for me in the midst of this coronavirus scandal, and I say scandal like it's something scandalous happened, coronavirus epidemic, let's say, worldwide, where warehouses are being shut down, production lines are being halted, that you can expect a brand new line of consoles to be launching. It's just not possible. Manufacturing right now is impossible. That's the way that I see it. But we will see what happens as the year goes on. However, that rounds out today's episode of the Jampack Report. If you enjoyed this one, drop me a like down below and let me know what you think about today's news. On top of Warzone, we had Reggie Fils-Aimé getting on at, of course, GameStop. That's a very big deal. Then GeForce Now beginning to decline. Would love to hear your thoughts on all these stories and more. But until next time, you guys have a fantastic rest of your day. I'll talk to you soon, and peace.